In this video, we'll be looking at Roman numerals. In Roman numerals, we used 7 letters to represent numbers. And these are the letters I. I stands for 1, V stands for 5, X stands for 10, L stands for 50, C stands for 100, D represents 500, and M represents 1000. These are the 7 letters that we use in Roman numeral. However, these letters could be repeated or could be merged together to form some other numbers. But then there are rules that guide this formation, and that is what we are going to consider next. But then before we go, make sure you have mastered these 7 letters and what they represent. Now, rule 1 says that add the repeated numerals. There are numerals that could be repeated in Roman numerals. The first is I. Remember that I represents 1. And so when you have II, it means 1 plus 1 based on this rule. And if you have III, it means 1 plus 1 plus 1, which gives you 3. Then the next thing you need to know is that we cannot repeat a letter more than 3 times. So I could be repeated 2 times and could be repeated 3 times, not 4 times. Okay, so the next letter we can repeat is X. When you have XX, remember that X is 10. XX means 10 plus 10, which is 20. And you could also have XXX, which is 10 plus 10 plus 10, which is 30. Next letter you can repeat is 100, C. Remember, C represents 100, and when you have CC, it means 100 plus 100, which is 200. And so when you have CCC, it means 100 plus 100 plus 100, which is 300. Okay. Now the next letter you can repeat is M. M represents 1000, and so when you have MM, it gives you 2000, and when you have MMM, it gives you 3000. 1000 plus 1000 plus 1000, it gives you 3000. These are the letters that you could repeat, and you don't repeat them more than 3 times. I, X, C, and M. Right. Next rule is that when the letter that representing a bigger number comes before a letter representing a smaller number, you add them up. What do I mean? If I have VI, you can see that V is bigger than I because V represents 5 while I represent 1. And because the bigger letter, the letter representing a bigger number comes before a letter representing a smaller number, you have to add them together. So VI, that is 5 plus 1, and that gives you 6. XI, that is 10 comes first, followed by 1. So since 10 is bigger than 1 and it comes first, that will be 10 plus 1, which is 11. Let's look at more. LV. L represents 50 and V represents 5. So bigger letter followed by the smaller one. Okay. So L, which is 50, plus 5, and that gives you 55. Look at another one, CX. Okay. You can see that C represents a larger number and X is smaller than it, which is 10. So we have to add them together. That is 100 plus 10. And that gives you 110. Look at this last one. It says DL, that is D, it represents 500 and L represents 50. And because the bigger one comes before the smaller one, then we add them together. That is 500 plus 50. That gives 550. Okay, now let's look at the next rule. Rule 3 says, when the letter representing a smaller number comes before a letter representing a larger number. Now this time around, the letter representing smaller number comes before a letter representing a larger number. What then do? You subtract. Look at this example. IV. I is smaller than V, okay, in Roman numerals. So 5 minus 1, that gives you 4. Look at this. IX. I is smaller than X in value in Roman numerals. So you have 10 minus 1 because the smaller one comes before the bigger one. That gives you 9. And so let's look at this XL. X is smaller than L in value, and so you subtract 50 minus 10, that gives you 40. Then XC, X is smaller than C in value, so you subtract 100 minus 10, and that gives you 90. And CD, C is smaller than D in value in Roman numeral, so 500 minus 50 gives us 450. Right, so these are the things you need to master. So let's look at this then. If you now have a larger number like this, how then do you write it in Roman numeral and vice versa? So let's look at this 1539. When you have this particular number, this large number like this, what you do is for you to expand the number. If you expand the number, you'll be able to place the appropriate letters that represent them, and then you merge them together. So 1539, if you expand this, you have this 1000 plus 500 plus 30 plus 9. Okay, after expanding it this way, you now look for the Roman numeral letter that match this number that you have here, that matches it. So 1000 stands for M, remember, 500, what letter represents it? D. And 30, what number represents it? That is x, 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 10 plus 10 plus 10. And 9, what represents 9? That is 10 minus 1. That is ix. So you have it this way. The next thing you do is for you to remove the plus sign that you have in all of this. Remove the plus signs and merge them together. So you have MD XXX Right. So lastly, let's look at when you have Roman numeral and you are asked to write it in Arabic numeral. So here you have MMCDLV. Okay, we are still going to use place value to do this. What is the highest value you have here? M stands for 1000, right? So you begin from 1000, then 1000, then 100, and then unit. Okay, now right here in the place of 1000 we have mm, in the place